Welcome to the Nation Diplomatic Dispatch, your window into the world of diplomacy and international affairs. Japan and Malaysia share over 60 years of close ties, marked by strong trade, strategic cooperation, and cultural exchange. Today, we explore this evolving partnership with His Excellency SHIKATA NORIYUKI, Ambassador of Japan to Malaysia. Thank you for joining us, Your Excellency.
Thank you for the invitation.
And welcome to the show. I'd like to start and get right into the discussion today. As Japan and Malaysia mark over 6 decades of diplomatic relations, how would you describe the current state of our bilateral relationship? And what are the key messages and outcomes that shape this relationship, especially in light of recent high-level visits by, for example, your Prime Minister recently?
Of course, Japan and Malaysia have developed very wide-ranging relations in the context of business, investment, trade, culture, and politics and diplomacy, among others. So we have a very active engagement between the two governments, especially this year Malaysia is hosting ASEAN, and I have been receiving Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba in January, meeting with Prime Minister Anwar, and more recently, just this month, our former Prime Minister Kishida, leading ASEC Parliamentary League. ASEC stands for Asia Zero Emission Community, and this is something we are joining hands in deepening our collaboration in promoting green transition, decarbonized societies. So we are seeing a number of activities crossing borders between the two countries. And I would say that our current bilateral relationship is based on very close mutual trust and friendship.
Thank you for that. And this is building on the December 2023 upgrading of Malaysia and Japan's partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership. It's been more than a year. Perhaps if you could share with us what areas of cooperation are being prioritized. You alluded to a few earlier in terms of ASEC. Is there any other areas that we should be aware of?
Of course, there have been a tradition of so-called Look East policy since early 1980s. So we have seen nearly 28,000 Malaysian students or trainees coming to Japan, studying Japanese, studying engineering or science at Japanese universities. And so those former Malaysian students having studied in Japan have become leading figures in Malaysian society. And so this is a foundation for our friendship and trust. And nowadays, as I mentioned, ASEC is involving deploying, for example, Japanese green technologies in the context of Malaysia's efforts to decarbonize economies. And we have also been promoting our cooperation, for example, in national security arena, including helping, supporting Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, or more exchanges between our two militaries.
That's right. I saw recently on your LinkedIn the MIMA event, the maritime event, among others. So it's nice to see the vibrancy of that relationship. I'd like to stay with education for a while and the exchanges that you just mentioned. I'm made to understand that there was recently the opening of the Tsukuba University, the UTM Waseda collaboration, and also MJIIT, the Malaysia-Japan International Institute of Technology. Now, how is Japan, and from your position, continuing to support Malaysian youth through scholarships or academic partnerships or cultural initiatives?
I mentioned the Look East policy.
That's right.
And you mentioned this MJIIT, Malaysia-Japan International Institute of Technology. based at UTM.
That's right, not far from here.
Yeah, and so I'm very delighted to see that there has been a very successful program of Japanese-style engineering and science education ongoing at UTM, and there are a number of collaboration with industries. So it's a academic and business partnership emerging.
Right.
So MJIIT is one of the important strategic hub for Japan, Malaysia educational exchanges. And more recently, as you mentioned, Tsukuba University opened the first campus overseas in Malaysia as a Japanese university. So Malaysia is the first destination for a Japanese university to go abroad.
Oh, very interesting.
So I'm hoping that there will be more Japanese universities coming to Malaysia, or Malaysian universities coming to Japan. So I have been referring to Luki's policy, but I would say that on top of Luki's policy, we can promote look at each other policy.
Look at each other policy. I like that. I really like that. And then that takes me nicely to my next question, which is on trade and investment. So Japan has long been a key investor in Malaysia. The Japanese industrial model from the 90s is something that we look up to and to a great extent aspire to, and the technological prowess as well. I was just looking online, and according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Malaysia, in conjunction with Prime Minister Ichiba's visit, Japanese companies have invested over 105 billion ringgit in Malaysia and created more than 344,000 jobs. So it's that's really big. So perhaps if you could share with us, what are some of the recent developments or upcoming plans in terms of trade and economic cooperation between our countries?
Right. So there are a couple of areas that I can mention. One is related to this green transition or ASEC related ones, and especially more and more Japanese companies are coming to, for example, to Sarawak for green investments. And of course, Sarawak has a huge hydro power potential.
That's right.
And introducing new solutions making use of hydrogen or ammonia or CCUS, carbon capture and storage. Those are the solutions that Japanese companies can bring to Malaysia. But not only those areas, but also, for example, I'm impressed by the number of Japanese restaurants in Malaysia.
Right.
I understand that there could be more than 2,000 Japanese restaurants. And as more and more Malaysian tourists come to Japan, I understand that there is a higher expectation for Japanese restaurants in Malaysia. So when I came from Tokyo to KL last November, I have been finding out very authentic Japanese restaurants, including ramen, and those kind of the daily food included. There are so many varieties, and those are again the areas where Japanese food companies are stepping up their investments. One example is, for example, Ajinomoto, which has
very famous here.
Factory near KLIA. And they go 100% halal.
Oh wow! Okay.
And I understood that about 40% of their products exported to the Middle East as halal food, and 10% exported to Japan. And so Malaysia is attracting food-related investments because of halal certificate in this country is trusted. JAKIM, as I understand.
That's right, JAKIM.
So it's not only traditional electronics or data center is another area which is, I think, expanding in terms of investment, including not only in Cyberjaya but also in Johor, for example. So it's a wide-ranging investments taking place by Japanese companies.
From sustainability to food to technology, some of it has been around for a while in Malaysia. Dare I admit, my friends are also big fans of Japanese food, and they say that compared to anywhere in the world, after Japan, Malaysia has got very good Japanese food.
Right.
Perhaps later I could ask you for some recommendations of where we should go. And it's also nice to hear that it's opening about opening the markets in the Middle East. So that's like a synergy between Malaysia and Japan. So that takes me to my next question. Of course, this show, The Diplomatic Dispatch, is also about discussing ASEAN. And this year, Malaysia is chair of ASEAN. We're kind of halfway through, right? It's already in May. Right. Perhaps if I can ask you, how does Japan view Malaysia's role within ASEAN, especially in driving unity and dialogue on strategic matters?
Right. Of course, we are looking forward to proactively participating in ASEAN meetings, ministerial meetings, or summit meetings. And take an example of ASEC. Japan and Malaysia will be co-hosting ASEC ministerial meeting as well as ASEC summit meetings.
Right.
So, for example, if we can create model examples in Malaysia, say by Japanese companies' investments, those models could be shared with other ASEAN countries.
Right.
And all of ASEAN countries are facing the challenge of climate change.
Yes.
And we are advocating for so-called multi-pathways.
Right.
Each country's energy policy landscape is different. So we wish to cater to the respective conditions of energy policy landscape of ASEAN countries. Another example is I have been trying to tackle the issue of traffic jam in Kuala Lumpur.
Right, that's very important.
And there could be Japanese startup companies, data responsive transport (DRT), to address the issue of first 1 mile and last 1 mile. And so for example, if regions like Mont Kiara and Bukit Bintang could be connected with making use of AI and reducing traffic by increasing the number of usage of say minibuses and so forth. That would address traffic jam. And this could be a model examples for other mega cities across Asia, including in Jakarta, Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh, or India mega cities.
That's right. Of course, public transport's something that's very important to us, and the Japanese public transport system is known for being very efficient. If I may then ask, next week there's going to be a big event happening here in Kuala Lumpur, specifically the ASEAN Summit. Do you have, or does the embassy have any expectations or kind of the top 3 things that you are looking forward to seeing or being part of at the summit next week?
What we are expecting is this ASEAN process would address urgent regional issues like the situation in Myanmar.
Right.
And the situation in Myanmar has worsened because of the quake in March. And we have been dispatching humanitarian assistance, and we wish to engage in reconstruction of the country at some point of time. But at this point of time, it's so difficult to effectively carry out humanitarian assistance. I have a very strong expectation for Malaysia as chair of ASEAN to address these urgent issues, and Japan is looking forward to supporting Malaysia's role as a chair of ASEAN process. Of course, there are other issues like collaboration, between Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific.
That's right. Yep.
And ASEAN's AOIP, ASEAN Outlook for the Indo-Pacific.
On that, if I may just jump in very quickly, last year you wrote an article after the G7 Hiroshima Summit where you spoke about defending rules-based international order. And both our countries often talk about the FOIP, or the Free and Open Indo-Pacific. Now, if I may ask you, and I think you were alluding to that earlier, how is Japan working with Malaysia to maintain peace, stability, and prosperity in the region? Right.
So Japan has been promoting this concept of free and open Indo-Pacific. It has economic dimensions, investment related dimensions. For example, Japan has been promoting connectivity across borders in ASEAN. And I talked about transportation. Transportation could include domestic transportation, but also cross-border transportation. And connectivity could include not only physical connectivity, but also communications or education.
Right.
So Japan has been traditionally very close with ASEAN, and we wish to further deepen our ties between Japan and ASEAN under the quite challenging international landscape, and including the situation in South China Sea.
Right.
And we wish to ensure that based on the rule of law, there should not be any attempts to change the status quo by force in South China Sea or East China Sea or in Ukraine. We have been very worried, about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and we have seen North Korean soldiers fighting in Ukraine. So those are the questions, that we need to be attentive to. The security landscape in Europe cannot be separated from that of the Indo-Pacific.
Right. And of course, Malaysia and Japan take similar positions on what's currently happening in Gaza. It's also heartening that I know Japan leads a coalition of Palestinian rebuilding, CPAD or something of that sort. So I think you'd like to add on to that?
We have proposed, this initiative called CPAD, which is to kind of transfer our experiences in East Asia or Southeast Asia to a sustainable long-term development of Palestine. And this could include, Gaza. So after ceasefire is realized, we are hoping, that there will be the process, where we together from Asia would promote, say, investments to the region and creating jobs for those Palestinian people, who may have lost their jobs and so forth. So we have been promoting, for example, Jericho Agro-Industrial Park during the last quarter of a century. And we believe that quality jobs to be created and coupled with, say, providing educational services would be conducive to sustainable development. So it's more of a medium to long-term project, but we are looking forward to closely collaborating with the Malaysian government on this.
It's very heartening, right? Because Japan being one of the developed countries and in Asia being concerned about what's happening in the Middle East. And I think it's this kind of global outlook that's very consistent with your principles, with the FOIP and all. Ambassador, if I may bring us back to a slightly lighter issue, but no less important, is about tourism. Earlier this year, you were in a viral video during Ramadan, going around the bazaars, buying Malaysian food. Right. There were two parts to it, which also highlighted the power of cultural diplomacy. I suppose very quickly, if you can tell us what's your favorite Malaysian food so far?
Okay. Well,
just a quick one.
Of course, I have been trying nasi lemak or mee goreng, so I love different kinds of Malaysian cuisine, including Malay or Chinese, Indian or Nyonya.
Fantastic.
And I'm very fond of trying different kinds of cuisine in this country.
Okay, I like that. That was a great answer. I'd like to ask you in relation to the Osaka Expo 2025, which has just been launched. It is now expected to attract over 28 million visitors, I was checking. And Malaysia itself, we are targeting about 30 over million visitors because next year is Visit Malaysia year.
Right.
How is Japan showcasing your theme of designing future society for our lives? And what does this global event offer for strengthening international partnerships like ours?
Of course, when we are hosting Osaka Kansai Expo, we wish to address common challenges, that our global community is facing, today. And we are showcasing some of cutting-edge technologies to address those common challenges.
Right.
And at the same time, Malaysia has been showcasing, some of the cutting-edge maybe technologies or this concept of harmony under diversity.
Right.
So we really appreciate, that Malaysia has been very actively participating in Osaka Kansai Expo, and I hope that more Malaysian people will come to Osaka to participate in Osaka Kansai Expo, and this is a mutual learning process.
Right, wonderful. I think that's it'll be quite exciting to be able to see how the expo goes. We've seen all the numbers. There are a lot of people there. Excellency, if I may ask you, what is your message that you'd like to share with the Malaysian public as we look to the future of Japan-Malaysia relations? We still have a few minutes left, so what are your thoughts on this? Yeah.
So as we discussed, we have a long history of friendship and trust. And as Malaysia is becoming a high-income country, there are common agendas, that we can address and solve, together. And I mentioned, for example, traffic jam.
Right.
And this is the kind of issues, that if Malaysia succeeds in addressing traffic jam issues in Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, or Penang, Malaysia will become the model of the rest of ASEAN community, and Japan wishes to support that transition in close partnership with Japanese companies.
Right. Ambassador, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much for all your thoughts, and I like how you spoke about Malaysia and Japan working together to create models for the global community. I also how you mentioned earlier about not just look east but also look at each other. I think there's definitely a long way where this partnership can go. And for those of you at home, thank you for tuning in. That's all the time we have on today's episode. Our heartfelt thanks to His Excellency SHIKATA NORIYUKI, Ambassador of Japan to Malaysia, for sharing his insights on a partnership that continues to shape economic progress, regional cooperation, and cultural understanding between our two nations. I'm Daniel RAHMAN. This has been an episode of Diplomatic Dispatch, your window into the world of diplomacy and international affairs. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.